Welcome back. Sometimes you need to repeat the same code over and over. You can use the old copy and paste strategy, but this is not convenient because if you change anything in the code, you will need to update it in multiple places. So, in this lecture, we will learn about functions. A function is some instructions packaged together to perform certain tasks. For example, this simple script print hello, then it will print 20 asterisk, followed by task completed, followed by 20 asterisk again, and then it will print the numbers from 0 to 9. Then it will repeat the same block of code above. We can group this individual print statement into a function, like this. To define a function, we use the def keyword, which stands for define, then the function name, and then the set of instructions that will be executed. To execute a function, we just call its name. So, if we called print task, that is the function name that we defined, it will execute this statement. Okay. We can also customize the message that we want to print. To do this, we have to define a parameter and pass this parameter to the print function. So, when I call print task with this message will be printed. And when I call it with this message will be printed. Okay. I can also customize it much further. For example, I can define the print message parameter and the encalls parameters. Encalls parameter will be used to multiply the number of asterisk by encalls. Okay. We can also give the parameter a default value, which means that if I did not specify a value for the parameter when I call the function, the default value will be used. When I called print task, this time I did not specify the encalls parameter. This means that encalls will be used with its default value. When I called print task this time, I specified the message that will be printed along with the encalls parameters. Since I did not specify a parameter name, this is called positional parameter or positional argument, at which the function expects that this first parameter will be passed to this first parameter, and this parameter will be passed to this parameter. We can also use keyword parameters or keyword arguments. For example, this print task function had not changed from the last slide, but this print task we have used keyword parameters or keyword argument. So I have used encalls this parameter and I gave it a value, and I used the print message this parameter and I gave it a value. If I passed the parameter this way, this is called keyword parameters or keyword arguments. And since I'm using a keyword, the order doesn't matter. But if I'm using positional parameter, it means that the order matters. Okay, so let's fire up our Jupyter notebook and start exploring functions. Welcome back. So let's create our first function. I'll define print message. I'll print some hyphens, and then I'll print hello world, and again I'll print some hyphens. Okay, to execute the function, we simply call the function name. Great. Now we have created our first function. Let's customize it a bit more. Let's say that I want to modify the message that will be printed in here. So I'll define another function called print message 2. I'll define parameter called message, and then the function will have the same structure as the previous one, but instead of printing hello world, I'll print the message, which is the parameter. By the way, parameter and argument are both have the same meaning. Okay, to execute the functions, we will type its name. This time, since the function have a parameter, it expects us to pass a parameter in here. If we did not specify a parameter, it will result in error because it requires one positional argument, as you can see in the error message in here. So let's call it again and specify the message that we want to print, hello world. Okay, great. So how about if we wanted to customize the number of hyphens that will be printed, for example? So let's define a new function called print message 3. It will have two parameters, a message and a num. We will print hyphen multiplied num. Then we will print message. Then we will print again hyphen multiplied num. Okay, so to execute the function, we will call its name. So let's call print message 3, and I have to pass the message and to pass the num. The message will be hello, the num will be 10. Great. These are called positional arguments, since when I was calling the function I did not specify a keyword. So what is the difference? Okay, let's try it this way. If I tried execute the function, I'll click Shift Tab, it will display the function definition. The first parameter is message, the second parameter is num. Can I reverse them? Let's try this. I'll print 10 in here and hello in here, and this will result in an error message in this line specifically. Why? Because it is expecting a number in here. The message say that cannot multiply sequence by a non-integer or a string, because when I am called the function with positional parameter, it means that this first parameter will be used as the message, this parameter will be used as the num. Okay, But there is another alternative that we can use that we can call the function with keyword arguments. Keyword means the parameter name. For example, I can use num in here and then message in here, and this time it will work because I have specified which parameter will have this value. Num will equal to 10, message will equal to hello. And if I'm using keyword arguments, the order doesn't matter. But in this case, it's called positional argument since I did not specify a parameter name. Okay, great. So let's define another function. I'll define print message 4, which will have parameter message and will have parameter num with a default value of 10, for example. And then I'll use the same print statement as before. Print message and then print hyphen multiplied num. Okay. This time, if I called print message 4 and did not specify the num parameters, 10 will be used by default. Okay, can we do the same thing with the message? Of course, you will just assign a default value in here. Okay, so let's have a look at another thing. When I type print function, this is the built-in print function. If I press Shift Tab, it will display the function declaration or the function definition, and it will print help. This is called docstring. It's a good practice, and actually there is a standard in Python that when you define a function that you should always define a docstring. Docstring is the help displayed to you or to the user who will use the function. So let's write a function with a docstring. I'll define a function called print message 5. I'll give it a parameter message and num, again default value of 10. To define a docstring, you will use 3 single quotes or double quotes. Okay? Inside them, you will type what this function do. So we will type this function print a message and hyphen symbol above and below the message. In here, we will define the arguments. So we have 2 arguments, message and this, the message that will be printed, and in here we will type the other argument is num, number of times hyphen symbol will be printed. Okay, if we have a returned value, we will put it on the docstring after the argument. But since this function does not return anything, we will leave it blank. Okay, in here we will define the function. It will be the same as this one. So great. If we used print message 5 and then press Shift Tab, it will display the help that we have entered in here. We can also print the function help using the help built-in function. The syntax is help and then parentheses between them the function name. Okay, this is great. So all the functions that we have been using till now do not return anything. So let's create a function that will return something. I will define a function called add2 that have parameters a and b. To return something from the function, we use the keyword return. To return something from a function, we use the keyword return followed by whatever we want the function to return. In case of add2, we want to return the summation of a and b. So if we call this function with parameters 15 and 20, it will return 35. If we called it with 1 and 2, it will return 3. Great. So how about defining another function that will return something? Okay. There is a mathematical series called Fibonacci series. A Fibonacci series, each number in the series equals to the summation of the previous two numbers. So let's check it out. I'll define fib that will have a parameter n. In here, I'll define an empty list called result and then two variables a and b, which will equal to 0 and 1. While a less than n, result dot append a, and then a and b will equal to b and a plus b. Then I will return result. Okay. I have defined an empty list to contain the results. A and b are two variables which have the values 0 and 1 respectively. And do you remember what it is? This is a tuple, and this is sequence unpacking. Let's try it outside the function. If I type 0 and 1, this will result in a tuple, and a and b will be sequence unpacked of 0 and 1. Okay, anyway. While a less than n, I will append the value of a, which in the first time will be 0. Then a will equal to b, which is 1, and b will equal to a plus b. Okay. The next time, a have been 1. So I'll append the value of a, and then b have the value also of 1, because the previous time it was 0 plus 1, its value was 1. Okay, so a will be equal to 1, b will equal to 1 plus 1, which is 2, and etc. until we calculate Fibonacci. So let's call it with 100. Great. These are the first two values. This value will equal to the previous two values. This value, which is 2, will equal to the previous two value. This value will equal to the previous two. this value will equal to the previous two, this value, and etc. And this is Fibonacci series. Let's call it with 1000, and the same thing. Every number equals to the previous two numbers. This is great. So this will conclude our function lecture. Thank you for watching, and join me in the next lecture.